Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this long stitch with a bit of sort of basket weaving notebook. I've made this one from faux leather. I've got a piece, an offcut here of real leather. So it's, you know, if you don't like using leather, then you know, feel free to use faux leather. It works the same. Just a note with the leather, Janie gets her leather from as an offcut from the leather industry. So from her suppliers are just providing her with the offcuts from what they have used in their industry. So it means that, you know, nothing is being wasted. So yeah, so we're going to do this. The popper is optional, and it depends whether you have something that will affix poppers. My little machine came from Amazon with absolutely loads of different color poppers. So yeah, but it isn't essential because you could just tie a piece of sari ribbon round or whatever. I mean, it stays closed, it doesn't necessarily say, but it's quite nice to have the popper fixture on here. So I'm going to put that to one side for a moment. Just talk about what you'll need. You'll need your faux leather or your leather. Now I'm using a template that at the moment is a prototype, but we're hopefully going to get those sort of with some kits in the future. So this template will allow you to cut out your leather to the right piece size. It will shows you where to punch your holes, and you then use this to pierce your signatures, and then an offcut from your piece of leather can be used for if you're going to add the popper. Okay, so let's just go through a few things that you will need. So I'm going to use a screw punch. The holes in this are made exactly for you to be able to use the smallest of the screw punch that is available on Janie's website. You will need your awl as well for piercing your signatures. You will need 13 pieces of A4 paper. This is the recycled cartridge paper. You will need to cut them. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. I have cut my paper, and I have cut it to, I'm sorry, let me move this out of the way and I can show you on this piece here. I have cut my pieces to 13 centimeters, which is the same height as the template, and now I have gone for 19 centimeters. And now this one I did here, and I cut in the same way. I did to 18, so I want it a little bit bigger to go nearer to the edge. However, that's cutting it. If you have maybe some handmade paper or some thicker paper, or even with this paper, and you want to use a torn edge, you can do that absolutely. If you cut them to 12.5, I say to cut them, if you tear them to 12.5 by 18, that will work too. Now the difference in this width is more about the edges. I have trimmed my edge so that when they sit in the book, they're all the same size. If I take this piece out here, you'll notice it's a little bit smaller. That's because it's on the inside of my signature and therefore pokes out a little bit more. If you don't want to cut them, you don't have to cut them to 18 and go with the overlap, or If you're tearing, again, just go with the overlap. Trimming your signatures is possibly one of the trickiest things. So if you don't want to bother trimming them, cut them to 18, whether you go 13 by 18 because you're going to cut them, or whether you're going to go 12.5 by 18 because you're going to tear them. It's entirely personal choice with that. Okay, and you will need 13 sheets of the A4 paper, and that will give you 5 signatures, each with 5 sheets in, and it will leave you with 1 piece over, which we'll use to make our template for piercing our signatures, which I'll show you a bit later. So what else do I have? So that's the paper and a bit about the signatures. I prefer to use a rotary cutter when I'm cutting fabric or leather, but if you want to mark it and cut it with scissors, that's also fine. Metal edge ruler, really useful. I have a knife because I trim my edges. I use my knife. A bone folder. Oops, my hair's getting everywhere. Bone folder. When you're folding the pages for your signatures, you need your awl. I think I said that just now, and a screw punch. And I had this little mat. It came many years ago with an old screw punch, and I use that when I'm doing my screw punch. But as long as you've got a sort of a self-heal cutting mat, you will need some thread. Now, when I did it, I did the long stitch with variegated thread, and now having put the basket weave on, it wasn't necessary because you only see this little bit and a tiny little bit here of that long stitch. So you can do your long stitch with a fairly plain thread. I mean, you can do your basket weave here with a plain thread, but I really like how the variegated thread goes. Now, I use quite often pre-waxed threads I get from Amazon. But if you don't have pre-wax, but you have embroidery floss, then you can make your own wax thread with a bit of beeswax. And this, as you can see, this is where you run the pull. You literally pull the thread through a few times to get it waxed. It just helps it when you're doing your binding. Unfortunately, this is the only embroidery floss I've got that's variegated, and it doesn't do quite what I want on there. So I'm going to be sticking with this. Now, this one is variegated, but very hard to see. So that's what I'm going to use for the long stitch. And then this variegated one, you can see it's much more of a difference on it. That's the one I'm going to use for my basket weave. I am also going to try, now I didn't do it on this one, I'm going to see if how easy it is if we can get some beads as we do the weave. We'll get some beads going on in these stitches. Okay, so here I've got my beads, and my popper fixes are in there as well, so I've got those ready. I've got my bookbinding needle, which is the longer one. If you have a plastic needle to do the weaving in and out, use that. If you have a metal tapestry needle, which is blunt at the end, use that. I have neither, so I've just gone with a slightly smaller, because of getting through, needle. Okay, so those are the things that you need, and we will go step by step to show you how to assemble the book. So we're going to start by cutting the leather for the cover, and I have already trimmed off on these two sides here, and I'm just going to put an X in the corner. Not that it's going to show very much. This is where I know I've got a corner. Now, what you don't want to be doing is to be using this as a guide to cut along, because 9 times out of 10 you'll be fine. There'll be just that one chance where you end up cutting into. So what we're going to do is turn it over, and I know this is my square corner, and I'm going to use, I have a Frixian pen. This is a pen that disappears in the heat. So I'm going to just draw a line there and a line here. And I'm going to line up the top of this because I know this is a straight edge. And I'm going to line that up, and then I'm going to line that up on one of these cutting lines. And then I'm going to put the metal edge of my ruler in line with that line and making sure it's also in line with the line here. I do apologize, this part of my board is quite well used and is starting to fade. And that way you know you're going to get a nice 45-degree line. So I'm just going to stand up and I'm going to cut that there. Okay. And then we're going to do the same here. We know that this is a nice square line. In fact, I'm going to do it this way this time. We know that that's a straight line. So we're going to go with this line here. Like so. This is why a gridded board, cutting board, is really useful, but also a gridded ruler. So let's just check we've done that right. So our cover is now the same size as this, and this piece we can cut later when we decide how big we would like our wraparound. Okay, now with this one I think I did it about 4 inches, but we'll wait and see what looks best when we're nearer that point. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to punch the holes into my leather, and I'm just going to use some low tack tape to make sure that it doesn't slip when I am punching them. So I've got a couple of pieces of tape there, and I'm also just going to tape it here and here, just so nothing is moving around. And so all you do is, this is the smallest attachment, I can't remember what it is, but it's the smallest attachment of the screw punch, and it just sits in that hole. And you need to go down vertically. I do apologize for my nails and any scrapes and scratches. I've been gardening a bit. So you literally just need to go down, and if it doesn't go the first time, just give it a couple of goes. It will depend on how thick your leather is. Now this is quite a thick one, so it might need me to go through a few times. Let's have a look under here. It's just about going through. So the thing with the screw punch and having that hole is you can just go backwards and forwards through it, and now we have our hole, I think. Let me get my spool. Yes, we've got the hole there. Okay, it's hard. There you go. You can see the hole there. There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to now punch the rest of these holes. You don't need to see me doing all of them, but I will get them all punched, and then I will come back for my next part. The holes are now punched, and what I would say, because I've got quite a thick piece of leather here, is what I had to do was I would use the punch a couple of times. It would kind of get through the top bit and you could pull that out, and then another couple of times. It will depend, like I said, on the thickness of your leather, but you know, the screw punch will go through. So that's now ready. So let's take that off. And we don't need to do anything else to the cover for the moment. So let's just take off all bits of tape. So this end a bit more. Yeah. And there. Okay, now you can see I've had my tape on for a little while. Looks like it's got a mark, but when you do that, you're fine. Right. Okie dokie. Paper. Now at the beginning I did mention sizes to cut for your paper or to tear, so I'll just go through that again. For this one, using the template, you can see that there's a little gap between the end of the paper and there. I cut these to 13 by 18 centimeters. 13 by 18. Okay, now this time I want them to come a little bit further out, so I've cut these ones 13 by 19. Okay, if you are going to tear your papers, have a torn edge rather than a cut edge, then you would want to go for 12.5 by 18. So that's kind of your options. So we're going for 5 signatures, each with 5 pieces in, and so that means you will need 13. Whoops, sorry, excuse me. Just dropped my board. You will need 13 sheets, A4 sheets. The spare one we will be using, I'll show you that in a moment. Now, you don't need necessarily to have a book hook, but if you have one or struggle with getting things folded, then this is useful. You can either go up this way, so this bit is pushed against the edge and you push that one up to meet it, and then use a bone folder. You can go, if you find it easier, this way, although this way you sometimes find you don't get it pushed straight up. With this one you do. So just gonna fold the 5 pieces. Now again, I think I mentioned earlier here, the way I'm doing it here, and also the way I did it for the original book, I'm trimming my signatures. Now it isn't an easy thing. I make that sound really bad. I don't mean it's a particularly complicated thing to do. It's just difficult to do it particularly accurate because you're cutting off tiny little pieces. So if you don't want to trim, then go, but you want to have the cut edges, then go for the 13 by 18. Because if I show you on this one what happens if you're new to bookmaking, as you put your pages in like so, you can see they come out like this. Now if you do it for 18 and you don't cut them, then you're probably about right to the edge of your booklet. Can you see? Okay. So, and again, if you tear them, you won't need to cut them. You're not going to want to cut them either. But if you do want to cut them, now you can do it in a couple of ways. You can use the book hook. So you've got a piece there. Or you can use the grids on your thing, but I'll show you with the book hook as I've got it out. Now, the thing with the book hook is you can push this right up, and you can push your ruler, the wrong ruler there, metal edge ruler, you can push your ruler up there so you know that this is a sort of square. Now, I'm just using the edge of the first sheet as my guide, okay? And then with your knife, I'm going to stand up for this. You won't see me standing up, but I am standing up. The pressure is on your ruler, okay? And I am literally, I'm putting no pressure on my knife. I'm just going down. Now, what happens sometimes is you get little bits that catch. If you have a massive guillotine, then you're okay. You can cut it. But yeah, it's this one's not too bad actually. I've done worse. You can well, you might not be. You can possibly see those two little bits there. It's a case of personal choice and sort of how far down the not bookbinding route you want to go, but how far you want to go in terms of how you want it to look at the end. So I've now got my 5 signatures, and I've got this spare piece, which I only kind of need half of it. So I'm just going to yeah. And then I'm going to fold that in half again. Okay. Now, because you cut it with the others, it's the same as your signatures. Now we just need our template back, and I'm going to put this so that the edges line up with the edges of the template. And then with my pencil, I'm just going to mark where the holes are. Whoops, there, and there. Okay. I'm going to open this out. You can just about see I make them a bit darker. You just do that line right across the middle. Okay. This is now going to fold that way because it's going to be the piercing template for our signatures. Now, two possible ways to do this. If you have a piercing cradle, we can use that, which I'll use in a minute. If you don't, then use some packing foam. That's what Janie uses. This is oh, I've got 6 pieces. They're just the flaps off cardboard boxes all glued together. And you can see I very rarely go through. You shouldn't really need to go that deep. Sometimes you do. And you can use that. So I'll show you one with this, and then I'll show you one with the cradle, just to show you the difference. So you want to hold, you really want your signatures in that shape, because if you flatten them out, you run the risk of going in the wrong bit. So we're going to sit this in the middle, and we're going to get our awl, and we're going to just pierce through just so we know we've gone through. Okay, so make sure I've got that lined up. Now, I have arthritis in my thumbs and a bit of carpal tunnel, so I find it a bit, if I was doing lots and lots of this, I would find it quite tricky to hold in that position. So for me, and this is just my personal choice because it's absolutely nothing wrong doing it that way, I just find it easier in the cradle because I'm not having to grip with my thumb. Just getting that pushed down in, and I can just hold it loosely with my fingers there, and then I can just do there, and it's hard for you to realize, but I'm quite a way away from this, from the edge of my desk, because of the camera angle. So I'm having to lean over, but normally you'd have this right up by you. So you can see I've now got my holes punched, and I'm only kind of just holding on to it there with my fingers. I'm not having to do a grip with my thumb, which is what is painful for me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pierce the rest of the signatures, and I will be back. we now have our five signatures, sorry, which can form our text block together. Now, one thing I didn't say, and Janie always says, is as you're piercing them, you pick them up from the pile, pierce them, and turn them like this, and then you know they're all in that order. Okay, so then we're going to start from this one, and this will be our back signature, which we're going to start. Before I do, just a couple of things. So we're going to do long stitch, and I'm not going to show you. I might speed it up, we'll see how we go, but I'm going to do long stitch on this. You will need 6 times the height of your text block, or yeah, so 6 times the height of this. I always, when I measure, I always give it a bit extra, so I call that 1 and 2, 3, and so on. So you get, it gives me a little bit more wiggle room. I prefer it. And then I need my needle, and then we're going to thread the needle with the waxed thread. Now, I've got these two things. You may or may not have something similar. This one was gifted to me by a lovely friend, because I didn't have anything at the time. This is, I think, a stitch holder that you use in knitting or crochet, I'm not sure. Or if you do dangles, like, you know, Janie's dangles on her things, you might have these bulb pins. Basically, you're going to need something just to hold a little loop for the first part. So something that is going to hold a loop. Okay, now I'm going to take, and I do, you know, I am not bookbinder trained. I've had some lessons with Janie, but also I'm kind of a bit of a freestyler. You know, I do what I find easiest. So, you know, I do apologize if oh, hello. Right, I've just found here that a piece has got folded out and so hasn't got the holes through. So I am just going to grab my awl again and my bit of card. This was always worth watching, worth checking to see if that you've got all your bits of paper in your signature properly. Otherwise, you get that problem. Okay, now I'm going to do that one again because I can see that's gone out through the wrong place. But we'll go with it. We'll cope with it. Right. So I'm going to go through. Janie always works from the back signature. Okay. I go with whichever I'm feeling at the time. Okay, now you're going to need to leave, whoops, a length. Okay, so I leave myself kind of that. And then we're going through the end hole. Okay, going to go out. Oops, I'm going to move those to the side so I don't get caught. The only thing, obviously, just be careful with having so much tape, so much thread. I'm going to use a small little bit. I've got some very low tack tape that I'm just going to hold that with. It just helps a little bit with your tension, and then you're not going to pull that right through. So we've come out, and this is where we need our little stitch holder. So I'm just going to thread it on like so. Okay, now what we're going to do, this is where I regret using a dark thread on a dark thing. I do apologize. So we're going to go back through this hole. Okay, and what this is going to do is just going to keep a little loop outside. Now be very careful to not go through your thread. So you're going to want to come back through the hole and then back through this hole, being careful not to split your thread. Okay, So I'm going to pull that through, and you can see that then holds this little, this little loop here. Okay, and we're back through. Okay, so we're going in through this hole on your signature and through that hole on your cover. Okay, my needle is a little thick, if you like. Now when you're pulling, always pull in the direction that you're stitching, so this way, but don't pull really hard. Okay, you can always tighten things up a little later. Okay, so now we're going to come back in here. As you go, you'll find that everything just lines up anyway, and you'll not have to do this kind of little fiddling bit to make sure you're going through. Okay, so again, I'm just giving it a little pull this way, and this is where having this stuck helps. And then out through here and out through the end. So inside in your signatures, you get those 2 stitches. On the outside, you get this one long stitch here, and then these are where we link all the signatures together. Okay, so I now need my next signature. Now, this is up to you. You can get proper bookbinding clips. You can hear me rummaging because I'm not sure what I've done with my clips at all. So if you have the proper bookbinding clips, they are oh, I've got them. They're proper ones. They're long ones and they're padded here. I just don't have any. But I do want to keep this signature out of the way. So I use these, and then this kind, oops, do it properly. I didn't get the whole of my signature there. This holds them in. Okay, now we're going to get our next signature in. Okay, so I've taken it from here to here. So we're at this end. Now, I personally find it easier then to turn it this way so that I'm working right to left again. I really find it difficult to come back on myself, particularly when my hands are a little sore. So I do prefer to come back this way. Now, once I've got one stitch in through here, then I'll probably clip this one in as well, but let's get a stitch in. So I'm going to go in here, which will then come up through my hole. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to then just open my clips up. Oops. And add that one in. As I said, these clips I use do sometimes mark things. So if you want to do this, then you're probably better getting some of the soft edge ones. Right, so I'm probably not quite in the right place with this. Sorry, I'm going to take these off for a minute. Yes. I'm just not going, there we go, that's better. I can see that's now in the right place. In fact, I'm just going to stick the one in for now. We'll go with that. Right, so come up, gone in through here, and I've come up here, and I'm going to go out through here just like I did last time. And you see now everything's pretty much there, pretty much lined up. Oops. There. Remember, pull the way you're stitching. Don't over pull though. And then we're going to go back in here. In that one. And then as you see that immediately lined up with my hole, which is what we need there. And then this one will come out through there. Okay. Whoops. Right. Best not to come up through that little clip. There we go. Okay. So I'm just pulling up that way. So got the 2 stitches on the inside and I have my long stitch on the out. Now, the reason we've kept this little loop here is because what we need to do is we need to link this signature back to that one. We need them to be linked at both ends. Okay. So I'm going to take that off carefully. Whoops, leaving the loop. And I'm going to come in from the top through that loop. Now, it doesn't matter, you can go up through the bottom as long as you do the same each time. It doesn't matter if you don't, it just means it'll be more consistent if you do it the same way. Okay, now I'm not going to pull that overly tight. I've still got that loose end inside to sort my tension with that. Can we get that? So I've gone through that loop. Okay, and now I'm ready for my next signature. So you. And my next signature comes from my thing into here. Okay. And I reckon I can probably line this one up and get that clipped in. A minute. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm trying to line up, you see my holes, where my holes are and where those holes are, so that it will make it a lot easier for me when I come to put my needle through in a minute. Okay, that's in. So you can see it's cut that loop. Remember, we haven't tied that off yet, so we just need to be a little bit careful. So, whoops. I'm coming back out through that one. Ooh. There we go. Do that one. Remember, some of the reason it looks like I'm struggling, one is because my hands are a little sore, but 2, because my needle is a bit bigger than the holes. But I don't want to make my holes too big. Okay. What have I done? Okay, right, I have made a mistake there. So what I'm going to do is, because it's one of those things, talking and trying to explain at the same time isn't going too well for me. I have to be careful here because I don't want to lose that loop. Right. Okay. So what I did was I went back in that hole instead of going in the hole for my next signature. I was thinking, why is that not coming through? So remember, I came up this hole, looped through my little loop, and I need to go back in through this hole. This one here, that one is lined up with my signature. There we go. Okay, so now we've linked into our third. And it's the same now, so we go, excuse me. So we go out through this one. I'm just trying to get to the hole. There you go, straight out through that hole. It is a bit like a running stitch, if you like. Okay. Out through that one. Excuse me. You can see, you can just about see I've got a variegated thread, but this is a very dark variegated thread. It would show up really nice against something light, but I thought, you know, okay. And then we're coming out there. Okay. Oops. There. Okay. So you can see these are a little loose. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a minute to just pull this through, because once I start linking on this end, it will become a little bit trickier. Okay. So I'm just making sure that my tension is okay. I'm going to go back in. On this one, just give my, there you go, you see, pull that little bit there, and I can give it a little pull here, and then pull through there, and have I gone the right way with that? No, pull through there, put it that way, there, and then put it that one, there we go, now we've got it. Okay, so as you can see, I still have to work on my tension. It's not something that comes particularly naturally, but if you you know, keep an eye on it as you go, don't leave it right to the very end, because once you start linking, which is what I'm going to do now at this end, you kind of, it's kind of a bit more tricky. So remember, we came in from the end and the top, from this end in, so I'm going to do the same there. So I've gone under, gone under that stitch. This is how we link. Okay. And then I'm going to go and do this. This is my next signature. So we're going to bring that in. And through. We'll leave the clip off for now. Okay. And then out that one. And then in this one to make the long stitch. And out there. Okay, give it a little bit of a pull. And we sorted the tension up to the last one, so we're just making sure we're keeping that tension going. So remember, we went in from the top underneath. Okay, so that's linking that one in, and then we're coming out here for our last signature. I'm all for whatever, you know, there's proper techniques, but I'm all for whatever works for you, particularly if, like me, you've got slightly dodgy hands that don't work in the best way. You've got to find what will work for you. So we're on our last signature now. So up and through. Nice little pull. Okay, don't put it too hard, otherwise you start to get dimples here, which, you know, invariably I do. But come out here. So, and then back out this one and out our last hole there. Okay, so we need to link this one. So we come from the outside under that stitch. Now this time we're going back through this hole, taking care not to split. Okay, so now we've got our long stitch, so we need to tie this end off. So make sure that's nice and good underneath. Oops, underneath, through the loop. So that goes underneath along the stitch, and then through the loop to make a knot, and then pull that way. You can just do one or you can do two. I'm just going to do the one, and then this is what I do. I tend to go back underneath the stitch in the opposite way, pull it out, and then I cut just about that length. Okay, now we need to go back. I'm going to take this bit off. I'm going to go back here. Okay, remember we had this bit because we now need to do the same. So I'm going to rethread the needle. Under, through the loop now, because I've not left a lot. I've left enough. So again, nice little knot there, back under, and then, okay. So that is your basic long stitch. Now you see my signatures are a little bit over. Okay, I think it is just possibly a couple at the back. So what I will do is I will just take a little time at some point and slice those off. So 19 centimeters is sort of absolute limit on that. You maybe 18.5 might be better, but I will trim that off later. But that's something I can do at another point. So you could leave it like that, just as a long stitch notebook. But there's a couple of things we're going to add to this, if you so desire. One is the popper. So I'm going to check which side was straight. Is that my straight side? Not really. Is that my straight side? It looks straight, doesn't it? So I think I'm just going to go now. What you do need to do if you're adding a popper, you do need to check. Let me go. That whatever you're using for your popper is going to be wide enough. So I think there's something like 12 millimeters these, but what I'm going to do is probably go. In fact, I'm going to straighten this edge again. I might go. Let's get my ruler out. Try and work in centimeters. I might go for. I don't know. 2 centimeters. Is that going to be, how did I go on here? Let's see what I did on here. Oh, almost 2 centimeters. It was 1.8. So let's go with 2 centimeters. But what I am going to do first is I'm going to get myself a straight. Oops, put those back in so I don't lose them. Get myself a straight edge. Doesn't really matter. I tell you what I will do. I'm going to make sure one of this end is straight, and then I can straighten it off of that. So I can get a nice. There we go. So that end is a straight line. So then what I'm doing, because I know I've just cut a straight line there, I'm using my grid lines on my ruler. So the grid lines on my ruler are on that straight line. And you can see now that this isn't quite straight. This is a bit thicker at the bottom. And I don't know, I'm a bit fussy. I see that my husband moans at me. I can see things I think he thinks are straight and they look out to me. And then it's only something like a millimetre or two or whatever. So we're going to go 2 centimetres, aren't we? So the squares on this ruler are 0.5 centimetre. So what I've done is gone four squares in, and I'm going to cut that strip. And then I need to decide how far round, and I think that would be far enough. So I'm kind of roughly looking at where it is in relation on the other side. So we're going to go there. Let's see what measurement that comes out at, so we can do it at an exact measurement. Well, let's go for 12 centimetres. We'll go with 12 centimetres. I'm going to mark that on the back. I've got a little heat erasable marker. Good. 12 centimetres. I'm just going to line this up. So I'm lining this top bit up with one of my grid lines, and then lining the mark I've made up with a grid line, then lining my ruler up top and bottom with that grid line, so I get a straight cut. Okay, so this will be our wrap round there. Okay, now I think I'm going to leave that till later. This bit you really can only do if you've got a popper machine, or you could, if you don't, you could use some velcro. Some velcro will work fine, but so we'll do that bit later. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a go at doing the basket weave on here, which I did here. And that is, again, it's with a wax thread. You don't really need a wax thread for this, but I don't have any variegated sewing threads or embroidery floss, apart from that one I showed you at the beginning, that which I'm not keen on the colour for this. Now, again, I'm going to work in inches here because I don't know what it would be in centimetres, because I did it in inches before. So I think I gave myself about 50 inches. Well, no, I gave myself about 40 inches last time, but I didn't put any beads on. So I'm just using my grid lines. So I'm going to give myself a good 50 inches on this. And we'll see, because what you don't want to do, and this is what happened to me. I ran out of thread. I did manage to kind of work it in, but I did run out of thread, and you don't want to be running out of thread. It's a little bit of a faff. Okay, so I'm just going to put that needle that I used away, and I'm going to get this smaller one. Now, if you have a plastic needle, great. If you have a tapestry needle with a blunt end, good. I don't. I'm just going with a shorter one here. Now I have some beads here. Now this, before I start, because I just thought, oh, I'll try it with the beads, because Janie did suggest with the beads. I just need to check, and this is where my hands start to go. I've lost that bead. Is whether this will go through, and it will. Okay, that's fine. So you'll need to bear with me a bit on this, because this is the first time I'm trying to do it with the beads. Let's get the lid of this. Where's the lid of this, and put them in there. Let's take the poppery bits off. We don't need those for now. So my let's get all the rest of the mess out the way as well. We'll keep that there because I need that. But we'll get the rest of the bits out of the way so we can see what we're doing. Now, my theory, not my theory, what I would like, what I'm hoping is that I will get pink beads, red beads, pink beads. I'm not going to do it on all of them. I think this is ambitious enough as it is. Okay. So, oh, why am I cutting thread? I've already cut thread. Where's my thread? Right, here we go. You can see this one is the variegation is a little clearer. But we'll see how we go. Because with the beads, it might not be necessary isn't the right word. You might not need to see that variegation quite so much. Now, when I did this one, I went in through here, but I think it'd be better to go in through an inside one. Basically what you want to do, so I've gone through between signatures and I've come out of that hole. Okay. So I'm going to, hello, I'm going to tie a knot in the end. I'm going to do like a double knot in the end here. Oh, I'm rubbish at doing these. Absolutely, I can never get them. If anyone has a tip on how you always get the knots to go in the same place, would be gratefully received. There we go. So I've got my knot to stop it coming through here. Okay, and that'll just sit in there. So I'm trying to think, did I go? Yes, I think I would have gone under. Yes, I came out and under. In fact, no, I went under that. I'm going to go under this one. Now, basically, this is just like weaving. It's the under, over. Okay. But this is going to have the added, and this is going to be a thing. If you're putting the beads on, you're going to have to, well, for me, because I haven't got a needle, so I'm going to put a bead on there. Okay. Now I've got quite big beads. You might not want such big beads. And this I can see right from the word go is going to be a labour of love. Okay. Or frustration or something like that by the time. But I'm gonna go with it because want to see what it looks like. Okay. And then you'll be able to see what it looks like. So I came up and I went under there. So I'm going over. That's why I put the bead in, because I'm going over this one and I'm going under the next one. Like so. And then, like I say, this is going to be one of those things. It's going to take a while. So I'm going to thread another bead. And this might also be where you're going to need occasionally to snip off the end of your thread to make sure we've got enough. So I think I gave myself probably nearer to 60 inches of this. We'll see what we're left with at the end. Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering if you have a needle. If you have a needle that you can thread this through, it's also thin enough to go through your beads, because I don't think this would go through my beads. Would it? No, the eye won't go through. So that's if right. You see, I wonder. You see, I don't think these are those collapsible ones. I think they're too thin to go under the thing. So we'll persevere with this. So I'm going to thread. that through. I'm determined I'm going to do this. This might be the point at which you're going, yeah, no, that's too much of a faff, Carol. And if it is, yeah, just skip through this bit by all means. But if you might actually have a better, like I say, you might have a better needle, you might have a better method. This is my first time of trying to do this. And I think that first bead gave me a full sense of security. Come on, you know you want to. There we go. Right, so that second bead is on. Rethread my needle. Now, I'm already rethinking what I'm going to do because I'm thinking this is going to be quite tricky. So what I might not do it on every single one. So we're came under this one, over this one, under this one, over this one with a bead, and then we're going under there. Okay. Okay, it's going to look lovely, but I think this is the point at which you've got to weigh up, do you have the patience? All right, we'll see. I am now going to go, because we came under there, we're going over this one, we're going under this one, and my vision was, oh, have I got a knot in me? Yeah, bear with me. There we go. My vision is that at this point, one of these would go on. So as I come back, I'm putting a bead on the middle one. This is where you really wish your thumbs would work properly to give you the grip. No. See, already in my head, and you're probably the same at home, I'm already rethinking how I'm going to do this, because I know that I physically I'm going to struggle to get this done the way I envisaged it. Okay, so at the moment I'm re-envisaging. Okay, so that red one is going to sit in between those. It's a bit smaller, so it might not quite look right. There. And where's my needle? So what I'm keeping the camera rolling and recording, and you see this because, you know, the struggle is real for all of us. So so that was an over and an under. And so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do this all the way down. I'm going to now just do some basket weave just so you can see it. So under, over, under, over, under. There. And I find it easier to turn it around and do it. Doesn't matter if you pull this a bit tight. Again, so we're under at this end, so we're going over this end one, under, over, like so. And you can see just doing the basket weave on its own is so much quicker. So we're going to do this for a little while. I might put some more beads in the middle, and then I might put some at the end, or I might just put some at the end. I think for me, for my hands, the beads might be a step too far, but if you are more dexterous, now this hopefully we'll start to see the variegation on this thread. So I am doing this, I'm pushing this up. I'm going to just go back and pull this one because I feel where I've got the beads, I haven't pulled it across enough to keep some tension on it. So I'm just going to have a bit of a pull of those, pull them through and pull that one back through. Now I did pull on mine and I quite liked it being pulled in. If you don't want it to go in, don't pull it so hard. Okay, so each time I'm just turning around because I like to come from the right. So under, over, under, over, under, and pull. Okay, and then I'm here. So the thread's under, so I need to go over this one, over, under, over. Okay. Hopefully we'll get to some lighter thread in a minute, and you'll, if you can't see it at the moment, you might be able to see it a bit better. So this is where we're at, and you can see I've been pulling quite hard, so my threads are going in. So at the moment I'm over the top of this end thread, so I'm going under, over, under, over, under, like that, and I'm going to pull it through. Okay, so at the end here I'm under this one, so I'm going over it, under, over, under, over, like so. I'm going to keep going. We're getting to some nice lighter threads, so you'll be able to start to see. I think what I'm going to do is just do some more beads at the bottom. I think it's going to it'll look fine. If you could see what I was doing, I was having to unthread my needle because I have such a big needle, and rethread it each time. If you have the hand dexterity and the patience to do that, then you can end up with beads all the way down. Okay, so I'm probably going to speed it up this next bit so you can see me doing it, and see, you can already see the variegated thread. It looks nice with variegated thread. It adds a little bit of something. But that's literally all this is. It's a bit of a basket weave through. And as you can see, if you want to add beads, you can add beads. I will continue with this, and then I will be back when I have completed it, just to show you the popper bit. But remember, if you don't have a popper, you could use velcro. I reached this stage. I I said resort, that's the wrong word. I did these collapsible needles that I kind of looked at earlier. I kind of use them with the beads. You might have seen on the speeded up there, to pull them through like a needle threader, which was easier for me for the beads. But I still think, personally, I don't have the patience or the dexterity to do the beads, and I love the basket weave with a variegated thread. So, and again, it's entirely your choice. And if you are able to do all that beading, I would love to see one that is beaded completely. Now, the other thing with this is that if you did do the beading all the way, you wouldn't need the variegated thread because it would all be covered. So what I'm doing is I made sure that I ended this side under this thread, under this one, so that I can go back in this hole. And I'm not going through the end hole, I'm going back into this one, which is between, if I can find it, should be between, there we go, the two signatures there. Okay, so I've gone back in there, and again, this is where I can never get the knot to sit right. So if you have that method of getting the knot to sit right down, please please let me know. I think I'm getting there. Maybe we're nearly there. Almost. We'll do another one, and then hopefully it'll be at least enough to stop this from coming unpicked. Okay, below that one. There. Okay. So we have the beads on. We have the basket weave, and like I said, at some point I'm going to do this probably after I finish the video, before I after I finish filming, but before I do the photographs and stuff, I will trim that off. But we're going to look at the popper. Okay, now you need to remember which is the front or back. I never do. I think we'll go with this way. See, it's these ones that are not quite. We'll go with it this way. So this being the front, and this being the back. Okay. Now, the way I did it with the last one is I started with the back. Okay, I've got it in the place that I wanted, like so. And then I got, I made the decision, well, the decision was made for me. I had to use the screw punch to put the holes into this additional piece of leather. And then I used the hole punch as well here, because otherwise I could not get this needle to go through this thickness of leather. When I did this one with the faux leather, I had no problem. I was able to just mark the four corners with the biro, and then literally just sew it. Okay, so it doesn't look great on the inside. I'm not that bothered about that one. I couldn't quite think about how it would how to get it to look good on the inside. So you know, it will look fine. It'll look nicer on the outside. Now that little awful knot is going to go underneath, because in fact, what I might do is I might put it through in there. Okay, so I've got a knot, and that will disappear underneath this as I'm sewing it on. So I'm going to come, excuse the mess, I'm going to come up through this one in to here. I'm going to make sure that gets tucked underneath, and I'm going to go back down this one. Oops. And as that's the one with a knot, I'm just going to be a little bit careful to make sure that I get that through, and I just pull that. Okay. And then let's come up, coming up through that one. And we'll go down through that one. I'm going to go up, back up through that one. And I'm going to do across there. I'm using the same thread that I used when I where am I going to go next? Up there. Yep, got there and across there. I'm using the same thread I used when I did the basket weave. Now, looking at this, may have been better to do it a little bit closer to the end of the leather. But what I might just do is I might just put some glue underneath this just to keep it a little bit more secure. Well, not secure because this will secure it, just to keep this bit from flapping around. So what do I need to do now? If I come up here, what am I going to do? Yes, if I come up there, and then I can go up here. Now, bizarrely, I've managed to actually do this a lot better without even thinking about it this time. So I've ended up, as you can see, with the same pattern on the front, on the outside as the inside. Okay, and I'm going to just tie this off. She says without putting the needle through. Just going to tie that off here. Let's do another quick one through there and tie that off there. And then cut that off. If I could find my scissors. Let's use these ones. A bit big, but they'll do. Okay, so that's on. And like what I've just said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some of Janie's paper bind. I'm not going to do it right now because I want to be able to do move this around to do the popper. But what I want to do is put the glue on afterwards. I think that's where I was going with that. Sorry, I got myself a little bit roundabouted. So this bit here. So now, if you've only got Velcro, I say if you're using Velcro, this is where you would just attach your two pieces of Velcro. You can either sew it on or stick it on, and it would fasten here. But I'm using or I'm attempting to use the poppers. So I'm going to can't remember which one I did first. So I am going to get my awl. He says, oh yeah. All the bits off screen you can't see, all the mess on my desk. Just put my little bits of equipment. I do start off with the intention of keeping tidy, and then all goes to pot. No, I am not finding my awl. Ah, yes, it's there. Okay. So I'm going to take this out. You can see it pointed to it. I don't think it's going to go straight through like it did on this one. So what I'm going to do, just like I did before, I'm just going to make sure this is going to fit. I want it to be about there. I'm just going to, with my awl, managed to go through here. I'm just going to get my bit of part just so that I can really go through there. And what I'm going to do, just to keep that hole open, is I'm going to put the back bit of, oh, that, oh no, that needs to go this way. This one needs to go this way. Is it going to go through? Now this is what I'm thinking. It's not, even though I've got the hole there, it's not going to go through because it's such thick leather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my screw punch again to punch that hole. And then what I do is when I've done that, I can then mark it on there. So let's do it. Let's actually do it rather than me talking about it. So screw punch is here. Actually screw the thing back up because it's not on. And I can just see that's the hole there. So I'm just going to go through. As you can see, it doesn't like to go straight through the first time. So I've got my hole. And what I'm going to do is now I've got my hole is to put my awl there. I can see the hole. So we're going to need to do the same with this one. Okay, so the hole is there. I'm going to get my screw punch on it. Are we through? We're through enough. Because, excellent. So if you've got fairly thin leather, then this isn't an issue. So we need to put that one through there. We'll do this one in a minute, and I'm just going to check which fixing I did here. So I need this one. Now it looks a bit odd, and I found it a little bit odd, but what I've realized is you really have to get that middle bit squashed in. And this is the machine. So I need to get this bit underneath. Oh, I've got some of the paper in, that was no good. And that bit on the top. And you have to give it a really good squeeze. Ah, looking good. Okay, I got it. Like when I did this one, I didn't get it sort of straight on the first time. So it was a little bit, Right, so this time, where's the other two bits gone? Right, this time I need, I've lost it, it's over there. Right, this time you need this bit this side and this bit this side. So you get on the inside, you get that nice little popper there. You can see, that's where me sticking my ball through. I've managed to stick it through the pages. I'm not too worried. And then this one on here. Okay. And where did I put my sheet? Again, need to get it. Whoops. This isn't my hands are. Oh, not playing. Right, I'll tell you what, let's get that there. Put that on there. Get that. There we go. Okay, so the idea is to get that as sort of the bit on the top, I think, as central as you can. And you give it a really good squash. There we go. And so now I have a working popper on my thing. I really, really like this. I can feel that I'm going to be using the popper sort of situation a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put some, might just cut some of that end off there. The knot is still there, don't worry. The knot is still there. And then I'm going to use, let's hope I've got one that isn't, in fact, no, I am going to use the paper bindery glue, but I'm going to use it from, I've got a little fine nozzle one here. So I'm going to put the glue under here and along here. And oh, it's already gripping. Can you feel? See, that's already gripping. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe the excess away, and but I could already feel that was gripping. So that is now going to give that extra little bit of security, because I feel like perhaps I should have gone a little bit further out and a little bit further along to actually do the sewing. Just keeps that down. It's not so much keeping this attached to this, because that's what the stitching does. This is just because I don't like this flapping around. So there we have our leather or faux leather long stitch notebook with a basket weave, or basket weave with a little bit of beading and a popper closure. So I hope that was reasonably clear. I'm sorry my hands were a little bit dodge and we didn't really get much done on the beading, but you know, got a little bit. But I personally think that when I would do these again, I would just stick with a basket weave. I just love, and use a variegated thread, because I just love the way that that looks. Okay, so thank you for joining me on this one, and hopefully we'll see you again soon on my channel.